guys, it's reading update time once again, and it's been a month since I did one of these videos. Yeah, I was in the middle of a really bad reading slump, plus I've been sick. I fell and injured myself at work, so a lot of stuff has been going on. But I was just looking in my notebook. This is where I write down all the books that I read, and I'm actually really surprised at how many books I actually did read in the last month. So I'm going to try and keep my babbling to a minimum and just give you my basic opinion on each book, and I will include links to each book's Goodreads page in case you want more information on a specific book. So I'm just going to get started. The first book I read was This Girl by Colleen Hoover. This was the third book in her Slam series. As some of you know, I'm a huge fan of Colleen Hoover's writing. Her book Hopeless was my favorite book of 2012. And this isn't really a third book, more as a companion novel to the first two books. The first two books, Slammed and Point of Retreat, this was told through the viewpoint of Will, and it combined both scenes or situations that happened in the first two books as well as other things that happened after the end of Point of Retreat, which I thought was, she handled it in a really great way. And I loved the book. I gave it 5 stars. Not quite as fantastic as the other two books in the series, but those were just phenomenal, and nothing can touch Hopeless in my opinion, but still really great, very enjoyable, very sweet, romantic read. So 5 stars on Goodreads. Okay, the next book I read was Until I Break by Inlayton. This book was kind of a surprise for me because I've read other books by Inlayton and I was not very impressed. And but I kept seeing all these people on Goodreads talking about this because she wrote it and she ended up deciding to pull it from publication in all formats. I don't think she ever released it as a book, but she pulled it from ebook format because evidently some of her fans didn't like the plot of the story and found some of the things in the book a little bit too extreme. So it sounded interesting and I decided I would read it, and I actually quite enjoyed it. I was very much surprised that I enjoyed it as much as I did. I ended up giving it 4 stars. It's kind of along the lines of like a Bare to You, 50 Shades of Grey kind of thing, although I actually liked the characters a lot more than I did in 50 Shades of Grey. And as far as the content being extreme, there was only one scene towards the end of the book that I could kind of see some people finding objectionable, but it didn't really bother me, so it was kind of silly, in my opinion, for her to pull the book. I'm being vague, I know, but I gotta get through these books really fast or this video is going to be like an hour long, and nobody wants that. Okay, next up, I read Tangled by Emma Chase. This was another book that it seemed like everybody on Goodreads was reading at once. Okay, so the main character's name is Drew, and he's this very big shot and advertising executive. And he has been holed up in his house for like 8 days, and he says he has the flu. And you pretty much find him, and he's like in this filthy apartment with pizza boxes everywhere, and he's like sprawled out on a couch watching movies over and over and over again. And you find out that the reason that he is in this predicament is because of this woman that he met, and he proceeds to tell you the story of how he met her and their experience together. And it's just this incredibly funny, sweet, romantic, goofy story that's just absolutely fantastic. And it was one of those books that I was reading it with this huge smile on my face the whole time, and it was just so enjoyable, and I gave it a huge 5-star rating, as well as just about everybody who's read it. I don't think I've even seen one negative review for this book, if that tells you anything. So it's great. It's called Tangled by Emma Chase, and if you haven't read it and you're in the mood for sort of a light, fluffy, funny, really, really funny story, and you like seeing a romance told from the guy's perspective, then check this book out because it's just fantastic. It's definitely going to be one of my favorites of the year. And once I finished Tangled, I felt like I wanted to read something else that was funny, so I ended up finally reading Wallbanger by Alice Clayton. A lot of people know this book because it started out as Twilight fan fiction. Who knew that so many books would end up getting published that started out as Twilight fan fiction? I mean, seriously. The thing I liked most about this book is that it doesn't feel like you're reading a story about Bella and Edward. the books that really succeed that have started out as fan fiction feel like their own story. You don't feel like you're reading copycat stories about the same characters, about, characters from Twilight or whatever, if that even makes any sense. So Wallbanger tells the story of this girl named Caroline who is a interior decorator, designer, whatever. She moves into this new apartment that's just fabulous. And on her first night there, she's asleep, and all of a sudden she hears noises again on her wall, these banging noises, and she hears the people next door having sex. Really, really loud sex and noisy and thumping the wall so loud and hard that a picture that's on her above her head falls off the wall and hits her in the head. And so this continues on for a few days, and she becomes enraged and marches over to his apartment one night, and she calls him Wallbanger, and he calls her Pink Nighty Girl because that's what she was wearing when she bangs on his wall. And they, of course, have this very contentious relationship, and then they end up becoming friends, and it's just this really, once again, really goofy, sort of silly, funny story, and I liked it quite a bit. It did seem to be a little too long. It seemed to go on and on and on a little bit needlessly, but other than that, I really enjoyed it, and I think I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads. I read a book called Cursive by Penelope Lane. This was another book that was very, 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 very disappointing for me. So many of my friends read it and thought it was fabulous. It's been getting really great reviews, and I just found it very predictable, very boring. Alright, so it's about this girl named Ashlyn and this guy named Jace, and they both have secrets, and they both are, they both go into this relationship, but there's like this whole inner monologue saying, oh, if I get into this relationship, but it's going to explode if they know about my past. And I'm like, seriously? And then there's this whole thing with Ashlyn's ex-boyfriend, who, the twist involving her ex-boyfriend is just so incredibly transparent, and I picked it up immediately, and it was supposed to be this humongous reveal at the end of the book, and I'm like, seriously? If you read this book and you get like 20 pages in and you don't understand what's going on, then you're not really paying attention. So that kind of annoyed me. So I didn't really like it, and I only gave it 2 stars. Okay, the next book I read was Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. Everybody and their grandfather loves Gillian Flynn. They think she's fantastic. I have made several attempts at reading Gone Girl by her, and I just cannot, for the life of me, get into it. I figured I would start with this one. This was her first, I believe this is the first book she published. I could be wrong. Yeah. Again, I didn't really, I liked it, I liked the story, but by the end it was just so incredibly depressing and so incredibly dark, and I've read a lot of dark things, and I don't know, I guess maybe I wasn't in the right frame of mind to read it, but it was just really dark, really dark. I mean, there were very few redeeming qualities about anybody in that book, and there were certain things that just bothered me about the characters, about the main character's mother, and I didn't, once again, the supposed twist I saw coming a mile away, and when that happens, it usually lessens my enjoyment of a story. So, again, I know a lot of my friends love these books, but I just wasn't able to get into it, and I think I gave it 3 stars. So, okay, so after I read Sharp Objects, there was about a week and a half to 2 weeks where I really didn't read anything at all, because everything I picked up I just put back down again because I couldn't get into it. And then I had the brilliant idea to go back and start reading a book that I had tried to read a couple years ago and just couldn't get into, and I decided to pick it back up again. And it was Feed by Mira Grant, and this was the book that knocked me out of my reading slump. I've already done a review of this book. I will leave a link to it in the drop-down box, but this book is fan-freaking-tastic. This entire series is fan-freaking-tastic. I love it with an obsessiveness that really should frighten a lot of people. It's just amazing. It's one of my favorite series now, and I've just been living and breathing these books for the last week or so. They have just been taking up my entire life, and this is the first book. Yeah, it's just incredible. I can't recommend it highly enough. You guys, all of you, I'm just going to pester the life out of you until I get at least a couple of you to go out and buy these books and read them and tell me what you think. But this is incredible. And immediately when I finished this one, I read the second book, which is called Deadline, and I also filmed a video review of that. I have not posted it yet because I'm a little hesitant to, because there are spoilers galore, because it's really impossible to talk about this book without giving away anything. So I will eventually post it, but yeah. Anyway, this is even better. This is pretty much, at this point, my second favorite book of 2013, right behind Painted Faces. Yeah, it's that good, people. It's just incredible. Yeah, so those are the books that I've read. This video didn't turn out quite as short as I was hoping. Anyway, as for what I'm reading right now, boom! I am reading Blackout, which is the third book in Mira Grant's Newsflash trilogy. And part of me is just like so incredibly excited to just, I want to devour this book. No pun intended, considering these are about zombies. But, and then part of me wants to try and make this last as long as possible, because this is the last book in the series, and I asked her specifically on Twitter if she plans on writing any more books about these characters, and she says not at this time, which breaks my heart, because I love them so much, especially Sean. Sean has taken Dex's place as my #1 book boyfriend, if that tells you anything, you guys. Yeah. So anyway, this is what I'm reading right now, and when I'm finished with this, there are 2 novellas that are in this world that I plan on reading. And actually, when I made this video, review for this, I should have mentioned that right after I read this, I read this 42-page novella that she put out, which is called Fed, which is an alternate ending to this book. And I didn't mention that I had read it, but I did, and I liked it, but it lacked a lot of the emotional impact of this book, because the last act of this book was just so incredibly emotionally overwhelming that the alternate ending really had a lot to live up to, and unfortunately it didn't really live up to it, but it was still great. I mean, it was still enjoyable, and I liked the thought process behind it, and I liked how she came up with this different scenario, which has an equally heartbreaking ending. I went into it thinking, oh, a happy ending to the book. Maybe the alternate ending might be happy. Seriously? How stupid could I be? I've read these books. I know her writing style. I know how she's ended the first 2 books in the series. She's not going to give us a happy ending to anything. So, in some ways it was even more heartbreaking than the ending to this book. But it lacked the emotional punch that this... Yeah. Anyway, so I read that as well, and it was great. But, yeah, so that's what I'm reading. That's what I plan on reading. And I'm sorry this video is so long, but like I said, it's been a month since I did one of these, so yeah, there's a lot to catch up on. But yeah, so that's about it for now. Like I said, I have filmed a video review for Deadline. Like I said, I'm not really sure if anybody's going to want to watch a video with a ton of spoilers in it, so I'm not really sure if I'm going to post it yet or not. So, but maybe in the near future. Anyway, thanks for watching, you guys. Let me know if you want to know anything else about any of the books I might have talked about today. I will leave links to the books, Goodreads pages in the drop-down box, as well as a link to my video review for Feed. And I will talk to you guys soon. And as always, happy reading. Go out, buy Mira Grant's Newsflash trilogy series, and I will talk to you later. Bye!